The greatest tournament poker, World Series of Poker champion, Phil Hellmuth.
You know what's pretty cool about this interview?
What's that, Phil?
You and I are both in the money right now.
We are. That's right.
What are left? How many are left?
We
Can
are
you see the board? There's
61.
60 left.
60 left in a field of how many?
600 and some.
They broke a record, right?
Yeah.
So we're on dinner break of the 8-game mix, me and Phil.
I have less chips than you.
You have less chips.
I have 10,000.
I got about 80-something. So anyway.
I'm probably the short stack in the room.
You think?
But I never give up. 9,800 I have. I never give up.
Phil, nice chatting with you, man.
Well, Phil, here's what we're going to do. A lot of people know about you being you got 15 World Series of Poker bracelets, the most of any poker player in the history of the World Series of Poker. You're envied. I know I am. A lot of people want to be Phil Hellmuth. That's why we come here. But I like to get a little, before we get into some poker stuff, tell my audience, first of all, I'm curious. When you won your world bracelet, when you won your championship in 1989, was that tell us how you got to Vegas. How did you find out about the World Series of Poker, and when was the first time you played at the World Series of Poker at Binions?
Well, when I was 20, I found a poker game and started playing with some guys in Wisconsin. And that led to another game, and that's often what happens. It led to the bigger game. And so when I was 20 years old, I really respected education. My dad has a PhD. He has a JD, he has an MBA. Say that quickly. Wow. So all the degrees, and so I respected that. I'm the oldest, and so I started playing with these guys. They were all doctors, lawyers, and professors. Nobody in the game was under 40. Maybe there was a guy 39. And me, 20 years old, and I just started smoking them. I mean, smoking them. I mean, these were not great poker players.
Right.
And I was a great poker player, and I was playing for my life. And
you're how old at this time?
20.
20.
And, then I started, all of a sudden I had $20,000 in the bank, all the student loans paid back in, 1985.
Right.
And then I started going to Vegas, and that's when you learn there's two things you can't do. You can't be a professional gambler. That means blackjack and baccarat and roulette. And I like those games. I had fun at those games, slot machines. But I was never really a big addict. But when I was 21, when I first went out there, those games were alluring. Alluring is a good word. And then the other thing you learn is that everybody that lives in Vegas, everybody that comes out to Vegas, they're almost always hometown champions.
Right.
So all the best from each town came to Vegas. Huggy Pearson said it best when he called people donkeys, because they load up all this gold, they transport it to Vegas, they dump it off, and they go home. So that's why donkeys.
Donkey.
And so you had a lot of those, but you also had all the hometown champions, and so it was kind of like sharpening my teeth.
Right.
As I lost my money, and after about 10 losing trips, all of a sudden, I just had a couple winning trips, and then I played in the World Series. I didn't even know what it was. Somebody's like, hey, there's this tournament across town. So I went and I played, and I finished 5th in the tournament.
In a preliminary or main event?
Not in the main.
Not in the main.
I'm talking about 1988 or 87.
Wow.
Played in the stud 8 or better, finished 5th. Got really unlucky the last hand. I remember this.
Now, coming from at this time, you were living in Wisconsin, or you living in Palo Alto? Where are you living?
Lived in Madison, Wisconsin.
So, were you familiar with stud 8 or better? I mean, them games.
I'd been playing a lot of mixed games back in. That's what we played. We didn't play Hold'em in Wisconsin.
Right.
We played some Hold'em, but we played a lot of mixed games. Gotcha. And so I was kind of good at that game already. Not great, but good. And so I remember that 5th place run. I saved 20% with Joe Petro, and Joe won it. Wow. So he had a nice bundle for me for the first place.
Nice.
And that's kind of what happened. And then, in 1989, I won the main event.
You win the main event. Now, do you buy in the main event, or do you win a satellite, or you just, what do you do? What was your thing?
I bought an outright that year. In 1988, In 1988, the day before the main event, I was down to my last 1,500 in town. I played in a $1,000 satellite, and I saved with a guy named Val Carpenter, who was in the... He was in a wheelchair. Really liked that guy. Saved money with him. I think it was 20%.
Okay.
In the limit hold'em, he had a lot of faith in me. Well, so I go and I play the super satellite, and I won it, but it was $200 buy-in or $100 buy-in, but there were so many people in it. They also gave you cash in those days. I won the seat and I won $6,000 in cash. Then I came back to the horseshoe and I ran into Val straight away and he's like, where were you? Where were you? He's all excited. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I just won. He's like, I owe you $20,000. So now I had $36,000 out of nowhere. $26,000 out of nowhere and an entry to the main event. Then I hopped in a 100-200 game. Limit. Hold'em, which I should never have played, but I was really good at limit hold'em. And I won another $8,000 or $9,000, and all of a sudden, by the end of the day, I had all this money. That was '88. In '89, I barely had enough money to enter it.
Wow.
And I tried to have people buy me, and I asked Johnny Chan to buy me, and I asked 10 guys to buy me, and they all said no.
Wow.
Going to the last hand, I had 100% of myself.
Let me ask you, that's funny that...
100%.
Wow, that's...
And I made a save with Chan after the money went in.
Really?
I made a really bad save. I saved $150,000 to $100 on who won the tournament, but I was 2.5 favorite, right. 2.5 to 1 favorite just to win that pot.
At that time, in '89.
So I walked with 655 of the 755. That's pretty freaking good.
Yes. At that point in time, the Phil Hellmuth, you're 20. How old are you in '89?
24.
You're 24. How much are you selling a piece for? The Phil Hellmuth then?
We didn't discuss it. Somebody would have probably put up $10,000 and given me a 50% free roll,
really?
Or we could have done a makeup deal. A lot of times makeup deals were 50-50. They all passed, and
that's awesome.
It was pretty sweet for me.
I asked Greg Raymer the other day. You're a young kid. You're 25. Obviously, this is a hell of a start in your life financially. Having 700, did you say 650 of the 750?
655.
What is the first thing you say? Your loans were paid, school, everything was paid.
Yeah.
What's the first significant thing that you purchased in your life as a 25?
Well, at age 24, earlier I'd bought a brand new Cadillac, and now I decided I was just going to buy a beautiful house. So I bought a penthouse condominium for $180,000 on the lake. I mean,
really?
This place, come on, man. I mean, $180,000 in Madison, Wisconsin. In 1989.
Wow.
Good Lord, it was beautiful.
Really?
This penthouse condominium, every room faced the water.
Wow.
It was just beautiful.
And
some NHL player lived on the floor below me.
Really?
Yeah.
You remember his name?
No. From Wisconsin, a famous Wisconsin guy.
Okay.
Now, maybe it was Chelios.
Maybe.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, it was just beautiful. So to have this place and then in August I bought a new Porsche. And so I had my cars paid for in cash. My house was paid for in cash. And then the bottom fell out.
Wow.
I started losing and losing. But the one thing I was always smart about, I protected. So, I mean, I might have borrowed $10,000 on the place. Okay. So I still had all my equity. I still had my cars paid for. I remember struggling, though, in 1990, 1991, right. Struggling to pay the $600 a month mortgage bill. Wow. I mean, there was a condo fees, plus we had to pay electricity and the other stuff, and it was like $500-600 a month. I was struggling.
Yeah.
I would drive up to the border, Escanaba, Michigan, played 10-20 Hold'em. I'd arrive on a Wednesday or Thursday. I'd play Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Wow.
And I just couldn't wait to get back to my wife and kids. The casino closed at 2. I'd be driving back. I'd get back at 6 a.m. in the morning on Sunday. But I'd have a couple $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever I want. And it was not easy back then. But I was living. Anybody from the outside looking at me, it's like, oh my God, look at this guy. Look where he's living. Look what he has.
Yeah, so let's talk about the woman in your life. Here you are, a young guy. You get married. How does she handle? I don't know the background of your wife. She probably, had her own career, probably.
Yeah.
Now she's going to take on this fella, Phil Hellmuth, poker player. You know that mix now. How does that go down?
I mean, she's like, she's medical director at a major university right now. She's just kept moving up. I mean, my wife's awesome. But I think it was very difficult for her. Very difficult because the world can perceive me as being a little difficult.
Yeah.
You should have seen me then.
Really?
I've worked really hard. Yeah, oh my God. Big difference between my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, but I knocked her up.
You knocked her up.
Knocked her up. Married her.
Right.
She may well have left me if I didn't get her pregnant because I
Wow.
was a lot
You
to
were tough.
manage. I was always completely honorable and honest.
Right.
That was beautiful. Never cheated on my wife. That's
Right.
that's all true. That's
That-
amazing.
that is
that says a
amazing.
lot.
That does say a lot, Phil. When you can.
But I was, come on, to deal with the ego I had
Yeah.
back then and just how messed up I was.
And her name is, introduce her to the people. What's your wife's name?
I'm not going to say. She doesn't like that.
Oh, okay.
But I will
we've
say-
all seen her on TV a couple times in the World Series.
She hates that shit.
She hates
but,
it. Okay.
But you know, I never did drugs. I never did alcohol. I avoided all that stuff. So I was really smart, and I was loyal.
Loyal.
And that went a long ways. And then until finally, I was about 33, and I think she was. I'm ready to leave you. I mean, maybe I was 36 or whatever. Said, I'm ready to leave you. I'm like,
oh my God, how'd you
she's
say?
like, you know, because you haven't grown. She said, you were a diamond in the rough. You're still a fucking diamond in the rough.
Wow,
I'm leaving.
nice.
And but she said, I'm not walking out the door. We'll go into therapy together.
Really?
And I was crying. I was destroyed. My wife, I mean, she was a black belt in karate. To me, she looked like a 10. And I was just like, wow. Of
course she's a 10.
smart
She's
and beautiful. I mean, just covered, just so perfect. And so I fought really hard, you know, and I changed a lot and grew a lot.
Nice.
I grew enough where she made me into a better man, and we're going strong now. It's we've been married 29 years married,
Congratulations.
30 years together, and we're
Cool.
doing really well.
Phil, where does Phil Hellmuth keep his? First of all, do you have all 15 bracelets? And
No.
No. Where are they at?
So one of them I never collected from the horseshoe.
You're kidding.
No,
Which
I'm not
one?
kidding. I won it in '97, and they changed
A
ownership.
preliminary event.
Yeah, and they changed ownership of the place. And I said, hey, they said, what do you want to have written on it? I should have just taken the bracelet.
Right.
And I said, no, I'll let you know what I want written on it. And I came back next year, and I said, I haven't decided yet. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't there anymore.
You're kidding.
So I never collected one of my bracelets. The other 14 I did collect. I've given them all away. That one that I didn't collect was meant to be a gift for John Sanborn, who had lost his wife, Barb Sanborn, who's my wife's half brother.
Right.
The other ones are easy. I gave one to my son.
You've given each and every one of them away.
Giving them all away, and then I'm also having trouble locating the 1989 main event bracelet. It was in my house, and I'm afraid it's been thrown away.
Oh my goodness.
Can't find it. I know it's very. I mean, it's a little. Oh, you know, we have a lot of people come through our house.
Okay, so you don't have any of the 15.
Oh, we probably have 7 or 8 of them.
Okay,
We can
okay.
probably locate
All right.
5 or 6 because we have my wife's and both my sons and my parents and my brothers and sisters. They all have theirs. So,
right.
And I gave one to G.O.A.T. Palihapitiya, my
Okay.
best friend. I gave one to
nice.
Bill Lee, one of my best friends.
Nice.
I gave one to Sheryl Sandberg. Sheryl is the CEO of Facebook. She's globally famous for starting the movement.
And do they wear them regularly, or they just?
No, in her case, it was her husband died, and he was one of our guys.
Okay.
And so I ended up just saying, hey, gave it to the wife and the kids.
All right. Now, let's get to a little poker real quick.
All right, you got about 3 more questions.
Okay. Yeah, I grabbed a poker player just out of the blue, and I said, if you had a question to ask Phil Hellmuth, what would it be? And he said, ask Phil, how much is it for real, and how much is it an act?
It's almost all real. It's
That's
unfortunate. I mean, it's almost all real. It's just me. It's just the way I am, you know. And sometimes when I handle myself really calmly, I have a great series. It's only happened once or twice, but I had great years. Sometimes when I handle myself really rockily, I have a great series. So it's really hard to trace back if it's had a negative net effect on me. You know, I mean, I'm embarrassed sometimes by I know it's great television.
It is.
I'm embarrassed by it, but people know I'm embarrassed by it. People seem to love me. They seem to love me.
Well,
The poker world loves me.
You're the face of poker, Phil.
I know, but for someone who the people out there don't understand, you know, they don't understand. Like, I'm at the World Series, and almost every single person seems to love me. It's crazy. I've had people coming up to me for 3 years, random people telling me they love me.
Love you.
Love. Use the word love. I've never
Love.
met them before, and I'm like, whoa.
Love.
So that's been pretty remarkable as I've transitioned to the positivity. I'm still losing it, but I mean, I think people understand that that's just me.
Now, you and I,
John McEnroe.
John McEnroe?
He was the same way.
Yeah. Now, you and I...
Draymond Green's one of my friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Draymond.
They just won the game by a point. You know, they had a shot at the buzzer.
I'm so happy.
Golden State Warriors. All right,
wait, who hit the buzzer?
No.
Missed on the buzzer?
Toronto missed on the buzzer. And it wasn't Kawhi.
Thank God.
So anyway, they go back now, game 6.
I mean, I'm a huge Warriors fan. I sit on the floor
Do
of
you
games.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. So let's get into the last question. Then we're going to play a name association like I do with everybody. Now, you and I, obviously, we're not personal friends. We are poker friends, but we have one camaraderie. Your dear friend, John Benetti, who passed away in 2008, was my mentor from 1998 till 2008. Tell us how your friendship developed with John real quick, and explain. A lot of people in the poker world have John a little wrong, just because of his New Yorkish brash.
I mean, I remember Benetti. Come on, he was from a different era, and so I think he was referring to this negative New York negative word, right?
Right.
And I'm like, dude, you can't say that shit, you know? And he said, I was married to someone who was that. And I'm like, oh shit, he's not really racist. He's just freaking word racist. Comes across, you know? And I was disappointed with that a little bit with him, but he really wasn't a racist.
No.
You know, I mean, but I didn't like that because, you know, I've been raised in an era where every word is tracked, and it was never. Did
you meet John at the World Series? Is that how you met him? Or did you meet him indirectly somewhere else?
He and I were the road together. I remember we played a hand together in like 1987 in Louisiana. I mean, that's how long I knew Benetti.
Okay, wow.
And, you know, I mean, he was a little rough around the edges, that's true.
Yes.
But he had a heart of gold.
Heart of gold. Yes, he did.
Heart of gold, and it shot off his mouth a little bit too much sometimes.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
great
heart
guy.
of gold. He melted down like I do sometimes at the table, get a little emotional.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, so before you go, I'm going to throw out some names to you and name association. The first thing that comes to your mind about them, you give it to me, okay? All right, here we go. I wrote some down because these are interesting. I want to get you. Let's start off with Josh Aria.
Josh Aria. How many? I really like Josh.
Okay.
Josh is a critic of mine, though.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's a critic of mine.
Okay,
But
great.
I really like him. And we had a really nice time at Negreanu's wedding. But he's still a critic of mine.
Okay.
He's kind of... he's not quite... He's pretty fair.
Pretty fair.
Pretty fair guy.
Seems like a nice guy. I don't know much of him.
I mean, pretty fair in his treatment of me. He's very
okay.
fair in life. But his treatment of me is not always... Sometimes he's a little meaner than he should be.
Okay.
But I really like him. Next.
Eric Seidel.
Love Seidel for years.
The kid, Danny Negreanu.
Negreanu and I have a very interesting relationship.
You do. On TV, it shows.
I love Negreanu, and he loves me so much more than anybody understands. But sometimes his heart's a little twisted in the way it comes out. So, like he might legitimately just love me, but will say, "Oh, Phil's not a very good poker player," because he's disappointed in whatever reason for whatever thing. And then I win a bunch of tournaments, and he has to eat his words. And then he tells me, "Oh, everybody passed me by." And then I win a bunch of tournaments, and he eats his words. It's been a pattern.
Okay. Jamie Gold.
Jamie Gold's all right.
Phil Ivey.
Man, it was nice to see Ivy the other day. I mean, he and I connected on another level, which is nice. I mean, like he's getting to that mature age where he's going to have a longer, more meaningful conversation. Mm-hmm. And you know, I could tell that I felt like it was just really nice to see him, and I felt kind of a little bit of a mutual love there.
Greg Raymer.
Raymer, really like him. He's been around forever.
Okay. Barbara Enright. The last woman to ever make the final table of the main event.
She's awesome.
Was she at your final table? No,
No.
in the 90s.
But I've been playing with Barbara Enright since, I mean, you know, she's been in the poker scene since the 80s. She's terrific.
Mike Mattisau.
Love Mikey. Mikey's one of my best friends. Really, I mean, he's one of my best poker friends. And
he's misunderstood too, right?
Completely misunderstood.
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to him a lot.
Mike Sexton.
Mike Sexton's amazing for poker. Great guy.
Greg FBT Mueller.
I love FBT. I saw him the other day. He used to get mad at me because I used to say FTP. I used to forget
the
and
initials.
he'd just get mad at me, and I'm like, Greg, give me a break, man. You know, I mean.
Oh my God.
So now I've got it drilled in. Greg FBT.
He's probably thinking you're big league in him. You know what I mean?
You know, people think that sometimes, and it's just like I meet 50 new people a week, and I'm not great at something has to give. You can't remember everybody's name.
Miami John Sanudo.
Love him. He's been in my Twitter. Almost every time I see him, I put a picture of him for an old school poker player. Great guy. He's like 80 now.
He's close. He's 70. He's mid. He's not 80. He's 75 or 6 or something.
No, he's 78.
78. Okay.
But he looks great.
He is on top. He is the old-time cash lead, like not in the World Series. He's like tops on the cash.
I love his work ethic.
Yeah.
I love the way he handles himself. I mean, like he'll text me every once in a while. But
how about Jennifer Harmon?
Jen Harmon's great. Great. She's sometimes she hasn't been maybe as fair to me as I'd like. Sometimes she's been a little too critical of me, but she and I have forged a nice relationship. We've been playing together since the 80s. Huckseed, one of my old, really good friends, but he just kind of fell away a little bit, departed a little bit. You know, we don't see as much of him.
I don't see him much around here either, the World Series.
Yeah. Good guy.
Gus Hansen.
Gussie, love Gussie. Gussie's the all-time gamble man. I mean,
all right.
Everybody loves to play with Gus, and he will either destroy you or get destroyed.
All right. Now, the last gentleman I'm going to mention to you, there's an urban legend going around, and I want you to clear the air. His name is Sam Grizzle. Everybody knows about the footage of you guys at the Binions main event, whatever year that was, 06, 5, whatever it was. You had some words. He offered you outside to fight. Set us straight with that.
We went out to fight.
You did?
We went outside to fight once, yeah. And he would never have done it, but I'd been walking around like this with my back hurting.
Right.
And he told me to hold a seat for him at a table. And I said, okay, it was three-handed. And then they came over, and they wanted him to pay $30 every few minutes, You know how they used to rake? They raked $6 or $8. Mm-hmm. No one hated paying the rake more than Sam. So I didn't. So I chose to save him the money. Shows up an hour later and he's just screaming and yelling and ready to fight me and stuff. I mean, and I was just like, whoa, dude. I mean, I know you didn't want to have money taken out of your stack to host a seat. And he said, well, I want to fight you, blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, I looked him right in the eye, and I said, you'll never have a better chance than now. I can't even, my back, I'm walking over, hunched over for 3 days. You know this. And he said, all right, let's go.
Wow.
We went outside. I landed a punch. He landed a punch. Neither one of us had a mark on our faces. The next day, we were laughing about it.
And today, you're friends. Cool. Well, Phil, it's been a pleasure. This is great. Best of luck at the World Series main event. 16, I'm sure.
That's right, baby.
All right,
you and I got work to do today.
Okay, pal.